3:10 in the morning, the Strait of Hormuz. A wedge of 14 IRG fast boats punches out of the radar shadow behind Larak Island at 45 knots, bow waves white in the darkness, engines screaming. One Arleigh Burke-class destroyer sits between them and a convoy of 5 tankers. The swarm has been planning this approach for days. They think they're invisible. They're wrong. They just don't know it yet. This is a hypothetical scenario built from real systems, real tactics, and real geography, for education and the kind of understanding you won't get anywhere else. By the time this engagement ends, in under 4 minutes, the swarm will be shattered, the convoy will never break formation, and the weapon that decided the fight will turn out to be a passive listening box, bolted to the destroyer's superstructure that dates back to the 1980s. Not the billion-dollar radar, not the missiles, a box that never transmits a single watt. Keep that in mind. The Strait of Hormuz at its narrowest is roughly 21 nautical miles across. Through it moves close to a fifth of the world's seaborne oil, nearly $2 billion of crude every single day. Every tanker, every LNG carrier, every product vessel going in or out of the Persian Gulf has to transit this corridor. Whoever can threaten this passage holds leverage over the entire global energy market. That is why IRG naval forces have spent decades studying exactly how to make an American warship's life complicated in these waters. The destroyer tonight is not here by accident. She is the close escort for a 5-ship tanker convoy outbound through the strait, a mission the U.S. Navy has run continuously in various forms since the 1980s tanker war. 1 ship, 5 tankers to protect. And the math of the swarm is specifically designed to overload that equation. The IRG's Asymmetric Doctrine is simple and it is not stupid. You cannot match the United States Carrier Strike Group for Carrier Strike Group, but you can build 100 fast boats for the cost of 1 destroyer. You can train crews to accept high casualties, and you can use geography, islands, coastline, shallow water, to compress the radar picture until the big ship cannot see you until you are already inside its comfort zone. Tonight's approach uses Larak Island's bulk to mask the boat's low radar return inside the island's own clutter return. The swarm rides the shadow all the way to 5 nautical miles. Here is why that works, or should work. The destroyer's AN-SWI-6 air and surface search radar is arguably the most capable system of its type ever put to sea. It can track a baseball-sized object in low Earth orbit. Against a large surface contact in open water, it is decisive. But a Peykaap fast attack craft sits maybe 1.5 meters above the waterline. Its radar cross-section is tiny. When it is hugging the coast behind an island, the radar returns from the rocky terrain dwarf. The boats return entirely. The boat's echo drowns in what radar engineers call the noise floor. It is like trying to hear someone whisper in a room where someone else is running a leaf blower. The SP6 knows something is back there. It cannot resolve what? That is the IRGC's window. And tonight they think they have it. 14 boats, 3 prongs. The plan is a classic swarm envelopment. The lead prong of 6 Zolfaghar fast attack craft hits the destroyer head-on, draw fire, saturate the close-in defenses, force the guns to commit. The 2 flanking prongs of 4 Peykaap boats each arc wide, low, and fast, curving around to catch the destroyer's beam and stern where its weapons have limited arcs of fire. It is a reasonable plan against a ship that is only watching with its eyes and its radar. The problem is the destroyer has a third sense, and it has been running the entire time. The SLQ-32 SEWIP, Surface Electronic Warfare Improvement Program, is not a radar. It never sends out a single pulse of electromagnetic energy. It only listens. And what it hears right now is 14 separate conversations. Here is the mechanism, and this is the part most people miss entirely. Every one of those IRG fast boats is running a navigation radar, standard marine radar, the kind you buy off the shelf. At 45 knots in the dark, in a channel with other traffic and rocky hazards, you need radar to avoid running into things. The moment those radars light up, they broadcast a unique electromagnetic fingerprint, pulse repetition frequency, pulse width, scan rate, frequency band. The SLQ-32 reads every single one of those fingerprints simultaneously and triangulates each emitter to a precise bearing. It also reads their radio communications, the coordinating traffic between boat commanders and their shore control. It does not need to transmit anything to do this. The SLQ-32 is building the complete tactical picture in total silence, and the IRGC has no idea it is being read. Think of it this way. You are in a completely dark room and 14 people are each carrying a flashlight, pointing in random directions. You cannot see them, but you can see every beam. You know exactly where they are, which direction they are moving, and how fast, that is the SL-32. The IRGC boats think the darkness protects them. The darkness is irrelevant. The destroyer's Combat Information Center now has 14 discrete tracks: bearing, speed, course, weapon profile, all of it built passively without revealing that the destroyer knows anything at all. The kill chain is already open. The question is sequencing. One detail that stuck with me when going through the tactical literature on these engagements: the RG swarm doctrine actually relies on the target being radar active. Their timing model assumes the defending ship will detect them at approximately 3 nautical miles, the point at which a low-fast boat typically clears the island's shadow, leaving roughly 4 minutes of reaction time for the defender and creating maximum cognitive overload. What the doctrine does not account for is being detected passively at 14 miles, giving the defender nearly 18 minutes to build the kill chain and position assets before a single gun has to fire. That 18-minute window is everything. At 0310 local, when the swarm kicks to attack speed, the SLQ-32 track update goes from navigation radar mode to fire control radar mode on 4 of the lead Zolfaghar boats. Those boats have just illuminated their targeting systems. The system flags it immediately. In the Combat Information Center, the Tactical Action Officer does not need to call for a radar sweep. He already knows where every boat is. He has 14 solutions. He begins sequencing the response. The MH-60R Seahawk helicopter has been airborne for 42 minutes, running a wide patrol arc to the southwest. It carries a load of APKWS, Advanced Precision Kill Weapon System, laser-guided 70mm rockets. Now it gets a Vector. The economics here matter. A Standard Missile 2 costs roughly $2 million. An APS round costs approximately $25,000. Against a small fast boat, the SM-2 is grotesque overkill, swatting a fly with a sledgehammer that costs more than a house. The APOS puts a laser-guided warhead on a target the size of a pickup truck from over 3 miles away, at night, while the helicopter is moving, and the helicopter can carry dozens of them. Put yourself in the Seahawk crew's position for a moment, flying at 200 feet above black water. At night, looking through the flare at 14 hot engine signatures spread across a 5-mile front, receiving targeting data in real time from the destroyer's CIC. This is not a search problem. This is a sequencing problem. The Seahawk turns to engage the right flanking prong first, the 4 Peykaap boats attempting the stern run. Those are the most dangerous to the convoy. If they get around the destroyer, the tankers have no defense. The first 2 APDUS rounds are already tracking. In the Peykaap boats, the crews have no warning, no radar lock tone, no missile alarm. The SLQ-32 is passive. The helicopter's laser designator is passive until the last second. The first explosion on the lead Peykaap is the first indication the right flank has been detected at all. The right flanking prong disintegrates in 40 seconds. 3 boats destroyed, 1 breaking off hard to the northwest trailing smoke. But the lead prong of 6 Zolfaghar boats is still coming, still closing, and now inside 3 nautical miles. This is where the guns come in, and this is where the physics matters. The Mark 38 25mm chain gun on the destroyer's bridge wings is a relatively modest weapon. Originally designed for close-in surface defense, it fires a 25mm round at roughly 180 rounds per minute in single-shot mode, faster in burst. Against a fast boat at under a mile, it is lethal, highly accurate, and nearly impossible to evade. The 25mm round at those ranges is traveling faster than the boat can turn. 2 Mark 38 mounts, both bearing on the lead prong now. The more important weapon for the middle distance, 1 to 3 nautical miles, is the Mark 45 5-inch gun-firing proximity-fused rounds. And here is the mechanism most people get wrong. Most people assume an artillery round has to hit its target to destroy it. For a direct-fire round against a hard target, that is true. But a proximity-fused round does not need to hit anything. The fuse uses a small radar transmitter in the nose of the shell. As the round passes near a target, the radar return from the target triggers detonation. The shell shatters into thousands of high-velocity fragments, a giant shotgun blast, with a lethal radius of roughly 10 meters in all directions. It does not have to fly through your hull. It has to fly within 10 meters of your hull. Against a small fiberglass or aluminum fast boat, packed with fuel and ammunition, a fragment cloud at that range is catastrophic. You do not need a hit. You need proximity. That changes the entire probability calculation for the gun crew. The Mark 45 begins engaging the lead prong at approximately 2.5 nautical miles. 3 rounds, proximity fused, walking down the column of Zolfaghar boats. The first detonates 10 meters short of the lead boat. Fragments shred the hull below the waterline and detonate the fuel tank. The second catches two boats close together in formation. Both stop. The third is a miss, but the surviving two lead boats have broken formation and are turning hard. They have lost their targeting solution on the destroyer. What strikes me about this engagement, even as a hypothetical, is how completely it inverts the intuitive power relationship. 14 attacking vessels against one defending vessel looks, on paper, like a serious threat, and it is. But the asymmetry the IRGC doctrine is built around, mass and speed and chaos overwhelming a single defender, only functions if the defender is reacting. Once the defender has 17 minutes of warning and a complete passive track on every attacker, the mass becomes a liability. More boats means more radar emitters. More emitters means a cleaner picture for the SLQ-32. The left flanking prong, 4 more Peykaap boats, has been watching the right prong ZT pier and the lead prong shatter. It is still coming. The boat commander has been on the radio to shore control. The SLQ-32 is recording every word. The left prong begins a hard turn to attempt a run at the convoy directly, bypassing the destroyer, trying to get past the engagement envelope. Here is the take that will probably get some pushback. The IRGC swarm doctrine is not irrational. It is a reasonable response to a real capability gap. If you cannot match the US Navy's technology dollar for dollar, you make the technology irrelevant through mass and geometry. The problem is not the doctrine. The problem is that the doctrine was designed against a 1990s era destroyer with a 1990s era sensor suite. The SLQ-32 SEWIP Block 3 upgrades have broken the core assumption of that doctrine, that a small, fat, radar-silent approach buys you a detection-free run-to-weapons range. When the countermeasure is passive, you cannot detect that it exists. You cannot jam it. You cannot suppress it. The doctrine needs a rewrite, and the IRGC knows it. The Seahawk has reloaded its targeting solution on the left prong. 3 more Apis rounds down range. 2 Peykaap boats out of the fight. The remaining 2 are turning back toward the Iranian coast at full throttle. 4 minutes and 11 seconds after the swarm broke cover, the engagement is over. Let me restate what just happened, because the numbers deserve a moment. 14 ARGC fast boats attacked 1 Arleigh Burke class destroyer protecting a 5-ship convoy. The swarm had speed, numbers, and a carefully planned approach using island terrain as radar cover. The convoy never broke formation. Not a single tanker changed course. The destroyer expended no standard missiles, no VLASROC, no Tomahawks. The engagement was resolved by a helicopter, 2 25mm chain guns, proximity fused 5-inch rounds, and, most importantly, a passive listening system that turned the IRGC's own navigation radars against them. Total APKWS expenditure, approximately 10 rounds at $25,000 each. $250,000 in precision-guided munitions, against a $2 million SM-2 alternative per target. The economics of the defense were better than the economics of the attack. That raises a question worth sitting with. When the cheap side and the smart side are the same side, what does the expensive side actually buy? Drop your answer in the comments. We read everyone. The survivors scatter back toward Bandar Abbas and the coastal anchorages near the strait. Shore control is still on the radio. The SLQ-32 is still recording. Every navigation radar that lit up tonight has a track file. Every voice frequency used in the coordination traffic has been logged. Every timing pattern, every tactical signal, every electromagnetic fingerprint from every boat in the swarm now exists in a database that will be used to recognize those same vessels or boats using the same equipment the next time they go to sea. The IRGC lost tonight's fight before it started. But they also lost something more durable: anonymity. The next time those boats leave port and turn on their navigation radars, somewhere a system will note the match and begin tracking them. That is the part of electronic warfare that does not make the news. Not the explosions, the cataloging. Here is the part that seems backwards until you understand the physics. The IRGC boats were actually safer if they had run without their navigation radars. They might have gotten closer in the darkness. But at 45 knots in a channel with other traffic and rocky obstacles at 3 in the morning, running radar silent is how you lose a boat to a reef before you ever reach the destroyer. The navigation radar is not a tactical choice. It is a survival necessity, and that necessity is precisely the vulnerability the SLQ-32 exploits. The boats could not turn the radar off without risking catastrophic collision, so the SLQ-32 never had to work hard. The targets lit themselves up and kept themselves lit. On paper, the swarm was airtight: mass, speed, terrain masking, coordinated prongs, a single overwhelmed defender. In practice, it collapsed in 4 minutes. And the thing that collapsed it was a passive listening system that cost a fraction of the radar it outperformed. Will the IRGC revise this doctrine in the next 5 years, or will they double down en masse and accept the losses as the price of the strategy? Comment yes if you think they adapt, no if you think they keep running the swarm. We'll look at the answers. Before we close, one thing about the SLQ-32 SEWIP that almost no one talks about, it is not just a receiver. The Block 3 upgrade includes an active jamming capability. It can transmit precisely calibrated interference targeted at specific emitters, which means if the RGC swarm had been using radar-guided anti-ship missiles instead of guns, the SLQ-32 could have bent the guidance signals of those missiles away from the ship entirely, sending them into the water. The same box that reads your radar can break your missile. The 1980s passive listener grew a sword, and the IRGC's swarm doctrine has no answer for a weapon it cannot detect, cannot jam, and cannot outrun. The final lesson of this engagement is not about firepower. 14 boats against 1 destroyer, the muscle math says the swarm should overwhelm the defender. What actually decided the fight was an information advantage so complete that the defense was sequenced and executing before the attack was fully launched. The SY-6 was struggling, the SLQ-32 was reading the mail. Information mindset beat muscle mindset, and it did it in 4 minutes. If this is the kind of breakdown you want more of, the how and the why, not just the what, subscribe and hit the bell. Our next breakdown looks at what happens when the IRGC tries the same approach with Shahed drones, layered on top of the fast boats, and how the Phalanx Fuze handles a multi-axis attack that comes in over the water and over the horizon simultaneously. Comment 1 if you want that one next.